Hi, I'm Wilmy with a W. So as a psychologist, people often tell me I was so triggered today. And they often don't understand why they were emotionally so intensely experiencing this experience that happened to them. When I asked them a little bit more about that, they would say something like, oh, when I just saw his face, I just felt my body getting warm from inside, and I just knew, here we go again. And then when I heard his voice, when he started talking, I could just feel this getting worse, and I just wanted to run away. I was so triggered. So then usually I tell them that this is really valuable. It's valuable that they can notice all these different things going on for them, and that it's something we can learn a lot about from. And my explanation goes something like this. I tell them that we've got this fabulous nervous system. And your nervous system works like this, that from the beginning, it's there like a radar, and it picks up everything you hear and see and smell and feel and taste. And it tells you it's safe here or get out, it's dangerous. And you basically store every moment as a memory with that information. What is going on here, and is it safe or is it dangerous? And usually when there is some form of danger, physical or emotional danger in the situation, and you store that memory and it's never resolved, you never sort it out and find out what you could have done, how the situation could have been different for you. In other words, if you never get to safety in that memory or in that event, there will probably be some emotion that's still involved in that memory. And it looks like we store memories in like a little package, and the package contains different aspects of that event. It's usually a picture. So if you drop an ice cream when you are 5 years old, you might have a picture of the ice cream hitting the pavement. And then apart from the picture, you also have emotions. So you might have a sense of embarrassment or frustration with that, in that package of that memory. And then you also have a bodily sensation. So you might feel the heat of the pavement burning your little bare feet, or the sensation of your neck straining down to look at it, or your heart beating a little bit faster because there is some activation of this frustration. And then there's a fourth element, and that has got to do something about the belief you have about yourself. So it can be in the shape of thoughts, cognitions, or it can be a felt sense, but it usually has to do with what you believe about yourself in relation to the world or in relation to others. So with a kid with the ice cream that you dropped, it could be something like, I'm clumsy, or even I'm a failure. It could be worse if there's lots of other kids standing around laughing at you, that kind of thing. So that seems like there's always a lot of these elements when we save a memory. And then it looks like that stays there. And we can forget about a lot of memories, especially if they are not emotionally loaded and if there's no more confusion about what happened there. But when there's some confusion, when there's not integration and resolvement about what happened there, those memories seem to be loaded with emotion, often emotion, and those seem to be making you triggerable on that level. So then when you 50 years down the line, when you drop something and somebody is walking past and you see their face or you hear their tone of voice, in a flash you can be back in that memory as the 5-year-old dropping the ice cream and hearing one of the older kids saying, "Ha ha, loser." And it can trigger that whole memory, because when you were 5-year-old, you had this thought of, "Oh, he's calling me a loser. I must be a failure." Or, "I am so embarrassed," or, "I feel ashamed because there's something wrong with me." And now at 50 years old, your brain just takes you there in an instant because of the facial expression or the tone of voice, or perhaps something in the event, or even the feeling of your heart beating in your chest, or the emotion of frustration that takes you back to that memory. That's when we are triggered. It's like a reliving of an old memory. The memory is there. The elements of the memory are there. And while we are walking in the world as adults and perceiving new things, new experiences, there are elements that remind us of something that has been stored in our brain. And we stored them there so that we can know, is it safe or is it dangerous? In the future, what can I do with this memory? How can I use it? When this happens in the future, do I have to remember that, hey, this was dangerous? And if you dropped your ice cream when you were 5 and you were ridiculed about it, and you feel this is dangerous, emotionally this is dangerous for me, that's what your nervous system does. That's how it interprets the situation. Then when that memory gets triggered and you relive it as an adult, you're going to feel, ouch, this is uncomfortable. The emotion comes with it because it hasn't been resolved. I hope that makes a little bit more sense to you about being triggered. I can give you another example. Let's take the example of a 4-year-old child. The 4-year is very curious. That's who we are. Hey, we have to be curious. And the 4-year-old sees a red light in the kitchen, runs up to the kitchen and touches the stove, and it was actually an indication that the plate was still hot. And it burns the child's hand and pulls away his hand and cries, is in distress. If you're the lucky child, the fortunate child, there's a competent parent that comes running out, hears the signs of distress, comes running and says, "Oh, sweetie, what happened?" And you're trying to explain through the tears. And the parent says, "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You just wanted to look at the red light. Oh, and then the stove burnt you. Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. Hey, I'm here now. Can I give you a hug? I'm just going to give you a hug. And is it okay if I have a look? Let me just see. Oh, it's really burnt really badly. But I tell you what, I'm going to give you something to just make it a little bit less painful. And then I'm going to take you to the doctor, okay? And we're going to get you some help to make all of this better. Is that okay?" Then you're the fortunate child. And then what you remember from that is perhaps a picture, perhaps the picture of the red light, or perhaps you have the burn mark on your hand and you forever are reminded by that scar on your hand. But you will also have emotions, the other part of the package. You might feel the fear, being scared of what just happened, this dangerous experience. Or you might also have the physical sensation of the burn on your hand. Or perhaps you have a memory of the physical sensation of the parent giving you a hug. You will also have the belief about yourself, the cognitions that will be something like, it's okay for me to explore. When I ask for help, I get help. When I ask for help, when I'm in trouble, I can get myself back to safety with the help of adults. I matter. I'm safe. That's how you'll store that memory. So when you're an adult then, you might look at the scar on your hand, you might be reminded of this event, but you won't feel that feeling of being triggered. You won't feel the emotion coming up and it impacting on your behavior. When, on the other hand, you're the unfortunate kid, and the same thing happens, and you're crying for help, and there's no one there. Not because they're bad, but because, hey, they might be busy doing something else that's really important, and at that moment there's no one there that hears your cries of distress. Your memory of that event would look really different. You might be crying on your own, not knowing what to do. You might even go to bed that night, still with a pain in your hand. And your memory of that event would look really a lot different. It might look like you might still have the image in your mind, the picture of the red light. You might have the emotion of fear, maybe sadness. You might also have the sensation of your heart beating and your hand burning. And your cognitions, your belief about yourself will be different. It might be, I don't matter. It might be something like, it doesn't help to ask for help. I've got to do this on my own. So your memory about that event would look really different because of how you feel about yourself in relation to others and in relation to the world. And that can be triggered in a different way, relived later on in your life, and bring up a whole bunch of emotions and confusion about what happened there. Because of course you mattered when you were 4. Of course you deserved to get help. Things just didn't work out that way. It can be even worse. The same thing can happen, and when you cry, when you show your distress, there can be somebody coming up, hearing your signals of distress, but it could sound like something like, oh, you little nonsense, what have you been up to? I told you not to go into the kitchen. Ah, you think I care that you burnt your hand? You can just sit in the corner there and cry. Same initial event, but in this case, you may have the same picture in your mind of the red light, but you may also have a picture of a frowning face looking down at you as part of that memory saved in your brain. You may have other emotions as well. You may even have the sense of shame because you feel shamed in that situation. You may have the same physical sensations, the heart beating, your hand burning, and you may have very different beliefs about yourself. You may believe, there's something wrong with me. I'm bad. I'm defective. I don't matter. And then one day when you are 30 or 50, you might see a similar facial expression or hear a similar tone of voice, and just like that, in a flash, your brain goes back to that event and says, yep, this is danger. Here we go again. This is dangerous. Get out of here. Get yourself away from this potentially dangerous situation. That's what a trigger is. It's like reliving something that has been stored in your brain that hasn't been resolved, and there's some misperception or confusion, especially often about yourself in relation to others and in relation to the world, specifically keeping in mind the concept of safety, physical and emotional safety. Sometimes people tell me, but I can't remember anything from my childhood, or I can't remember specific events that are linked to what I'm experiencing now. How is this going to work for me? The reality is we don't have to remember everything, or even especially the detail of memories. There's something that stays in your body. You remember some aspects, even if it's just a felt sense, what it felt like to you when that event actually happened. We work with that. We access that. There are some great therapeutic skills available now with which we can actually find memories or aspects of memories. That's the beauty of it. Then when we access that, we can work with that. I hope that makes even more sense to you. It's a fascinating topic, and we all experience this. So I think it's helpful to understand it better. When we see this in behavior and we notice it, we are able to learn from it. And we can even go and revisit some of those events. We can understand what the child or the younger version of yourself, it may be even days younger, have experienced. And we can help literally rewire the memory of that event, because you can see, hey, actually, that child just needed someone to say, it's okay, I'm here now. I'm going to help you get back to safety. Let's see how we can make this better. Thank you for telling me that you were in distress. If you want to know more about this, you're welcome to contact me and find out more. There's a bunch of stuff that we can, that I can tell you about, to read up on, or videos to watch. A lot of material about this specific topic available already, and I can refer you to that as well. Hi, thank you for listening to this video. I've appreciated to be able to explain this to you.